I'm going to try my best to stay back so it doesn't sound so loud.
This is take 2 of this PS episode, everybody.
Take two, because I forgot that I futzed with my the knob controls on my microphone, and it was like I was screaming.
I went to edit it and I was like, we can't use this. It's too loud.
My ears are bleeding. And I come forward a lot, and so then I'm in my microphone.
Yeah.
But
it's fixed now.
Yes, it's fixed. Well, hopefully you guys let us know. So we today are going to talk about cognitive error. Okay. Hold on. Sophia, whatever you're doing, stop. Okay, stop though, because it's loud. You don't hear that?
No, I heard a bang.
Okay.
And so I can hear her talking.
We're just going to start when I'm going to count down, and then we're just going to start again.
Okay.
And we'll just edit all this out because it's so loud.
No, it was loud.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. And we're back. Take 3. Take 3 of this episode. First was too loud. Second, Sophia is basically rearranging her room like a teenager. Anyways, we are back. Cognitive errors. This is number 6. Yes, number 6. And we are talking about mind reading today. So, Steph, you're really good at the definitions aspect. I don't have the sheet in front of me. Do you want to do what mind reading is? Do you have the sheet in front of you?
I don't, but I looked it up before we did it the other day. And basically mind reading is the cognitive error that you can predict what somebody is thinking. More specifically, that somebody is thinking negatively about you or judging you. So it's also like the epitome of what social anxiety is, right? Like you walk into a room and somebody, makes a comment and you're like, they're talking about me for sure. Like that kind of stuff. You automatically assume that you know what they're thinking. Here's the caveat to that. And we talked about this the first time we recorded it, is that people have this argument a lot, with partners or their children or their parents or their friends of like, I know this is what's going on in their head. No, you don't.
Right.
It doesn't matter how well you know them, right? Like I know Mari inside and out. I can't predict what she's thinking.
Yeah.
I'd like to think sometimes that I know how she's feeling, but I don't actually know unless I ask her. Right? Like you're doing yourself a disservice by assuming that you know exactly what's going on in somebody's head. You can't do that. And then you're creating these stories inside your head, believing them to be true based on the error that you're experiencing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So before we were kind of walking through steps 1 through 7, now we're just going to kind of focus on steps 3 through 6. And so if you're confused or don't know what I'm talking about, go to our first 2 cognitive errors episodes that were full podcasts versus just the PS of us breaking down each individual one, and you'll know what I'm talking about. We're not going to spend time on that today. So the first aspect, the one that I want to, the thought process that I had when I was listening to one of our episodes, I typically, in the beginning, I used to listen to our episodes as like a playback to just see kind of like how we were doing, what it sounded like. So I haven't done that in a very long time, but for some reason I wanted to listen to our imposter syndrome one. So I started listening to it and I was like, oh man, that day we had recorded for like 4 hours and we had batched quite a few episodes, and I could tell that I was done in that episode, right? Like I was swearing more than usual. I was operating in black and whites, but like I said before, when we recorded it the first time, the black and whites were facts. They were true.
Sure.
Like we were talking about failure, and I was like very blunt and vocal about like, you're going to fail. And so it was it's very truthful. However, it's sometimes that is hard for people to hear, right? Not that I want to tailor everything I say to like what I think our audience needs to hear. I think sometimes it definitely is helpful to have a blunt aspect or like a blunt approach. But when I listened back, I was like, oh my gosh, people aren't going to listen to us anymore, or people aren't going to like what we're saying or what we're doing because I was so harsh in this episode. I felt so harsh, right? So that's what we're going to unpack today. That's what I chose to unpack. So, and then I write things down as I go just because it makes it easier for me to stay focused and on task. I know I say this to all of my clients. I know Steph says it to all of her clients, but the importance of writing it down is so that you can see what are the facts and what aren't the facts. That is key.
Because your brain will have you convinced that because you're thinking it's a factual statement. That's not true.
Right. I was gonna go because I think the first paper is in the garbage, but I was like, that's just gonna be loud as shit me trying to get it, so I'm just gonna do it. Okay, so I think the cognitive error that I said was,
I think it was something about like we're gonna lose listeners or followers because of how my language was, or something like that.
That to me feels more fortune telling. Of like, because of this episode, then this will happen.
Sure.
So people won't like me because of my approach in this episode.
Sure.
Or people are going to think that I am rude because of the way I spoke in this episode. Yeah. So, yeah. Because that could also be labeling, but whatever. So people.
That's where it gets confusing, everybody, because they
I
can
know.
all lead into one another, or one can lead to another, to another, to another.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have to stop them before they begin, so we're not doing 17 at once.
Yes. My hands are still, like, my body is still buzzing from the workout. So I'm like, okay. So people will think I'm rude because of this episode. So facts that prove that this is true. So the facts that I had last time was that I was swearing more, and that can be perceived as whatever, right? And so not that I ever tailor my language to people. I said, though, if I notice or feel like I'm swearing too much, then I am swearing a lot, which was more, sometimes it's hard to sift through all of that to get to the message. So swearing a lot. And then I said there were moments where I was very black and white.
Mm-hmm.
So black and white can have these polarizing views. Okay, black and white. So now times, situations, and examples that prove my negative thought isn't true 100% of the time.
One of the ones that I gave you is that I can factually tell you that we've gained subscribers because I see the numbers.
Okay. Gained subs. I know that anytime somebody asks me to help them with something, I do my best to show up and help them. Mm-hmm. So like, that's not what a rude person would do.
Mm-hmm.
So I am helpful.
I mean, our listens, like our streams have also increased over time, which is different than subscribers, right?
Streams increasing. Okay.
I've never gotten negative feedback from anybody saying like, damn, Mari was on one, or like, what the fuck was up with Mari?
Okay. No negative feedback. Okay. I mean, we could go on, right? I could go on and talk about all of these things. The important aspect too to remember is, so a lot of people, a lot of clients have said, okay, in step 5, right? So this time, situations, and examples that prove my negative thought isn't true. A lot of people have said, well, the situations or examples that you're coming up with don't particularly pertain to this negative thought. Yes, because we're not going to limit the amount of good examples or challenges that we have against this thought. We're not. So it doesn't have to just pertain to times when maybe you weren't rude. It can be anything, like looking at that scope. So that when I said, well, I know that I'm helpful. I know if somebody asks me to help, I'm going to help them to the best of my ability, or point them in the direction that they can. Like just this past week, I had, I think it was this past week. I had like 3 people reach out to me about looking for a therapist, not like friends, not specifically looking for me, but 3 of my friends looking for specific recommendations. And I did my best to help them find what they like. So I'm not like, oh, I'm busy, I can't. Like, I'll always help people if I can. So being able to come up with challenges that don't particularly pertain to just this situation, right? Always find as much evidence as you can to challenge your negative thought. The facts, though, will always